How you doing? How you doing? And how you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Petty, and I appreciate you stopping by today. And today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Dragonheir Silent Gods. Now, this game is trying to be the closest thing you can get to a D&D authentic experience. And honestly, after playing the beta, they did an amazing job. There's some really great mechanics in here, and you gonna live your life by that, by the D20. You gonna live your life by that D20. So a little bit of quick backstory. I want to be very upfront. This is a sponsored video. These guys reached out to me before one of their initial alpha tests and essentially invited me to come, like, hey, come check out the game. If you like it, we'll see if we can do some stuff together. They did not come out of the gate with some crazy lucrative offer like, hey, we'll throw a bunch of money at you if you say this is great. No. They brought me in, they had me try out the game, and I absolutely loved it. So I'm very excited to be working with them to bring this video to you guys today. So in terms of story, I really don't want to give too much away because the story is very good, and there's a lot of things hidden in this game that you need to be doing your reading. Like, I'm not playing around. There are some hidden items and things that you will 100% miss if you are just spamming the next button through every single chat window. You gonna need to do some reading. There's gonna be some clues in there, and it's not the kind of game where everything is marked like, oh, you need to go here and get the secret chest. No. It'll mark main quests for you and things like that. But from where I was able to get in the beta, there's still a decent amount of things hidden around the world, and the only way you're going to find about that stuff is talking to people, having them kind of mention it exists, and then maybe someone else you run into down the road then gives you a little bit more information. It's an entire thing. It is so well put together, and it feels like I don't want to say an older gaming experience, but it's nice to have to look for things through context clues and it not just be something very obvious that the game is like putting up neon lights and flashing like, it's right here, the thing you need's right here. So the fact that there's stuff worked into just like the beginning areas is a very good sign to me. I really like that aspect. That's pretty nice. Just to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, after the initial beta test that I took part in, the company reached back out to me and was like, hey, we would love for you to make a video. And I let them know that, hey, due to the NDA stuff for the beta testing, I didn't record any footage so that I could respect the NDNA because I was very honored to be invited to play it in the first place. So I didn't want to break no rules. They hit me back with a test version of the game and the ability to start working on the video immediately. That's insane. That is so above and beyond what I'm used to from mobile game companies that honestly I've been swept off my feet a little bit. I kind of love these people a whole lot. But during that period where they had given me essentially a little test version of the game so that I could be able to record some footage, there was a bug in it. So I was not able to get past a certain point because when I needed to be able to interact with something, it just was bugged out and the NPC I needed to be able to see wasn't there. But I was able to get far enough where I had a lot of the early game dungeons unlocked, and I was able to grind and farm my teams up. I even got 2 5-stars, okay? That was some work, son. I did a lot of leveling in, like, the lowest possible dungeons. So there's going to be some stuff that I'm not able to get incredibly detailed on. So for the most part, we are here just to tell you about our experience, about the things that we've seen in the game, show you some examples of some of the stuff and why I'm personally very excited about it. So with that in mind, I just wanted to make sure that you guys had a fuller understanding of my perspective viewing the game. That way, if there's any stuff that's past the point I was able to get to, well, I'll get to it later. Don't worry about it. we'll talk about some of the end game and mid game stuff when I can do it on the next test launch. Which, speaking of, is going to be coming up here very, very soon. And they have several more tests planned throughout the rest of this year, and they hope to have the game launched by the first half of 2023. So, if you like anything that you see here today and you would like to check this game out yourself, look in the description. We've got the Discord link down there. I highly recommend you guys jump in there, apply, see if you can get access for these beta tests, and get your hands on this, because I'm having a lot of fun playing this. And even with the limited scope that I was able to do because of the bug, I still enjoyed and have been fiending to get back into this game and be able to play it some more. So in terms of gameplay, the game is going to start you off in a dark forest. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of the details. Also get some feels of like old Final Fantasy VII, kind of wandering around the world, kind of look and feel that I personally love, because that's really nostalgic to me. I grew up with the original Final Fantasy games on Super Nintendo. I love them. I love them to death. It's probably one of the big reasons that I'm still into gachas going on 7-8 years at this point. God, what was it? 2015 I started playing these games. It's been a while. It's been a while. So we've got a nice long story to truck through that is going to take you through all kinds of lands, which there's plenty of stuff to explore in those said lands, special items that you can find in there, just a lot of goodies for the world itself. They also plan to have seasonal story stuff coming up from time to time. I don't have a lot of information on that, but given off the scope that I've seen of the story in game, I'm excited to see how they're going to do story events and the fact that they want to do essentially seasonal stories themselves. That sounds like it's more than just a seasonal event that is running a dungeon 20 times and getting a slow fill up of rewards of just farming content that's already available in the game. So I like that. I like the fact that they're going to be putting seasonal story stuff in. That makes me feel like events are going to have a little bit of polish on them, and I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful for that front. So we'll see how all that stuff ends up shaking out. Another thing that I can't go into too great of detail, but they have multiple races and multiple classes that you can pick. Now, there is a standard character that is essentially your stand-in, that you can have fight with your party. And it's kind of recommended because this Mamma Jamma throws the heat. By which I mean... And I tried this with several different classes, and it still gives you like the same starter unit, essentially special starter unit. And this thing has an AoE that defense breaks. I don't need to say, for anyone that's played gacha games before, I literally don't need to say anything more. It could just be an AoE that defense breaks and does no damage, but no, it does damage, a decent amount of damage, and it defense breaks a good little chunk of area. That's going to be real nice. Real. So let's go ahead and take a look at combat a little bit, and what does it mean that we're going to be living and dying by the D20? So for a couple of characters, you will see when you go in and look at their skills that, maybe they have an AoE attack and there's some effect that they might apply based off of that attack. That's where you will see the D20 come into play in combat. You also might get a chance to either try and surprise attack something, or something might try and surprise attack you. And you will have to roll the D20 there as well, but this time in like a face-off kind of way, where you're both rolling D20s, and whoever's D20 rolls higher wins, essentially, and gets the combat bonus at the start, which might include them being stunned, having lost some health, stuff like that. So it's... And I'm not done. You can also rob people. That's right, you can go right up to a vendor, say, I would like to trade with that back pocket, and take their money. I highly recommend, before you do that, to see what items they sell in their shop, and then what items you can actually steal from them. Because those two aren't usually exactly the same. There's obviously some crossover there, but they're going to have some items that you have to buy that you can't steal from them. that if they happen to be important items and you happen to be thinking about robbing this person, you should probably buy that stuff first, because if you fail to rob them, they will probably be a little upset with you and not want to trade with you anymore. And maybe after a little while, they will let you pay them some money to apologize. But I wouldn't count on that being a thing. So if you're going to rob some people, just be prepared for that to not go exactly your way. When you're going around the world itself, you'll also come across some shrines and things that when you interact with them, I think you can put money into them, and then you have a chance for some kind of buffed or gift. It's going to roll buffed or gift. Yeah, we're adults. We're doing adulty things. Doing great. We're just adulting it so hard. Praying for you, buddy. Praying for you. But when you interact with these shrines, you're going to have the ability to pay them a little bit, and then it'll throw a 4-sided coin. And whatever numbers are at the top of that when it lands is what you get off of a score for what it could potentially give you. And then it's got loot tables for each of those numbers. So you'll get something depending on the luck that you get. But it's another one of those real-world elements where they're introducing dice and aspects that make it feel like a D&D game. There's a lot of games in the past that have attempted to feel like D&D games. Not always great at it. Probably one of the more prevalent examples is things like the Bethesda games, where it became very common for you to, be able to charm an NPC if your charisma was over X points. But the problem with that system is that once you hit that threshold, that's it. You just do it every time, no problem. So you're essentially just stacking blocks until you get enough blocks that I don't have to worry about it anymore. That's kind of shallow gameplay. This treats it more like traditional D&D, to where you may have some modifiers that'll give you plus, 1 to 3 on that roll, or it might give you negative 1 to 3 on that roll. But it's a mix of that system of like, all right, well, it goes off of how much of this stat you have, and then that just kind of plays into your odds on whether or not you're at an advantage or disadvantage when rolling for it, and then those small bonuses or negatives come into play. Personally, I find that to be a more interesting system than just hitting a threshold and then being done with it. I like that, you could be the best thief in the world and have crazy high stats, but you could just still roll a 1 and you trip and bump into the guy you're trying to rob. I like that. I think that is better design and adds more impactful gameplay than doing it by the Bethesda mode, where it's, hey, just hit this high water mark and you're good. That's it. That's all. So I like that. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at one of the most important things in this game, and it's the game board itself and how it relates to combat. And I really want to take a little bit of time with this and do a little special stuff on the side. So we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into this, and to do that, we're going to need a game board. So, bloop. Oop, pointed in the wrong direction. I meant bloop. And let's go ahead and rotate it a little bit. So, going to turn on down, buddy. And we've got some friends to bring in too. Now, I come from a nerdy breed of people, so these aren't images that I got off the internet. These are hand-painted D&D units that are in my house. So we've got our first man's here. We're not going to give him a cute name or anything like that. We're going to keep it just trucking. And let's go ahead and give him an enemy. The most vicious enemy of all time. We've got turtles. So let's go ahead and line our boys up here. And you see that we've essentially just got a single purple line. Okay, fair enough. Let's go ahead and bring in another buddy. And we'll move one of these gentlemen up a little bit here. How you doing? Hate to interrupt. Apologies. Yeah, this is editing Petty, and recording Petty here seems to have made a little bit of a mistake. Also, After Effects Petty kind of messed up when he originally made the animations and made them the wrong color. So there's a couple of Petties to be at blame here. I don't want to be an accusatory Petty, but I'm just saying some mistakes were made. So I'm able to re-export the After Effects project to correct the color from yellow to red, but we're obviously still making a bit out of this. And I'm just going to badly have to dub where I accidentally call it a yellow line when it needs to be a red line. So just watch for that mistake. So when you... We'll make it very clear, don't worry. Editing Petty has this completely... We're Gucci. But alright, so let's... Petty, go ahead and continue with kind of mostly being right. Good job, bud. Good job. Alright, so we've got the purple line coming from the original unit that we were already fighting, and then a yellow line coming from the new one. That essentially means that both of them are targeting us. Pretty straightforward, right? So pretty simple. For a unit that is attacking you, that you are directly targeting first, you got a purple line. Alright, real important to know what your purple line's doing. Next line that we have is obviously our red one. Red means that they are targeting us, but we're not essentially targeting them yet. You really want to know this for how you're putting together your teams and kind of orientating everybody on the battlefield. So let's get a little bit deeper. All right, let's bring another buddy in. And this time we'll just move each of them to kind of opposite sides of the board. And we can see that both of them have their purple lines. That means that each of them are targeting the unit that is also targeting them. But our boy here looks a little bit like a mage. Looks like a magey boy. So we probably don't want to have him just face tanking stuff. That's probably not going to go great for him. He learned how to use his hands to go voo 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 voo, not take hits. So let's go ahead and move our mans to the back. Alright, and we'll put our buddy here kind of center stage. Now we see that both of the frontline enemy units are now targeting our back guy, and we can move this guy down here if we want to take the bottom one first, take him up to the top if we want to push the top one first. Really, that's going to depend on what units you are in play against. And then also, we'll get into it in a little bit, but there's some dungeons where you kind of want to stack one side so that you can push through the first unit and the one that has the worst debuffs or skills that they're giving the boss that you're fighting. So whichever is the two more dangerous of those two lieutenants, you stack that side a little bit and you push right through. It's a good time. It's a good time. We've got some clips of that we'll show later. So really, this system is going to be your bread and butter. Wherever you're moving our buddies here, you're gonna wanna have the formation in mind. It's, especially when you're going through the story, there's enough changes in what you're fighting, how they're fighting you, if there's some in front of you, some behind you, if there's physical obstacles on the board. This is the bread and butter of gameplay. You get good with your foundations, you're gonna be okay. So respect the game board. Respect the hell out the game board. Like any true gacha, we've got summons in this game. Nothing super crazy to elaborate here. You can do single or multi-pulls. At this time, there's just advanced summoning and regular summoning pieces. I am not sure if they are planning on adding any more of those, or if there's going to be anything like light and dark that eventually mixes in. But, I mean, it's got a pretty sweet summoning animation. And like many other gacha games, there is a way to awaken your hero, ascend your hero, whatever you want to call it. But there are dungeons that you grind for element-specific resources to be able to advance your heroes. Pretty standard stuff. This one, they do combine two of them, so I want to say that the Storm Cave has lightning and light crystals in it. Fire Cave has fire and poison, I want to say. And then I want to say that the ice one is ice and then dark crystals. Not 100% on those because I don't have access to the test version anymore because those servers are down. But I'm pretty sure that that's how they're split up. Storm Dungeon is also one of the dungeons where you do not really have to super worry about your formation. It's mostly just you fighting the boss itself. So it's more about your team synergies and everything than really how you're setting up your teams. But you'll see in a little bit some of the dungeons that we look at. It is kind of important how you're setting everybody up. And obviously we'll get in more into that in a little bit here. Another big thing that we want to talk about when it comes to combat and running dungeons is there is an alignment overview. So the composition of your team, if you keep 2 certain element combinations, will give you bonuses that are pretty impactful. That's not no little bit right there. That says 20%. Okay, and another 15% bonus element damage on top of that. Okay, that's some nice comboing. So early game, really your best bet is going to keep a 3-person alignment. It's not going to be super critical, but it's definitely going to give you that little bit of an edge that is going to make pushing through a lot of the early game stuff just that much faster. And the faster you get through all that, the quicker you get to the better stuff. Then you start getting the better gear and everything. It's going to be a good time. So make sure that when you're putting your teams together, that you're not kind of just picking one of every flavor because you like to see all the pretty colors on the board. No, you want to be making some tactical decisions here of how you're putting your teams together, and paying attention to your alignments is going to be very impactful, especially early game, and I'm sure at end game. I think it's going to be very, very important to be hitting that 5-member bonus in late game. So this is something that you want to get an eye on now and just be wary of as you're building your units and kind of planning out your early game transition into mid game, then going to end game. So this is a very important system that you just want to keep in mind when you're investing the resources in building all of your champions, because I mean, it takes time, it takes resources. So the fact that it is very specific on how you want to be comboing things together, the sooner you start thinking about that, the more impact it's going to have for you down the road. So just want to go ahead and stress that the best that we could. Another thing that I want to talk about real fast is divine artifacts. Now, this is something in the game that is, I think, one of 2 systems, so I use the word I think there, so don't hold me to 100% for this. But I know for a fact that this first system takes essentially any duplicates that you get of, certain epic or better champions, and you can essentially trade them in for these divine items that you can then equip to your other champions. I believe there's also another system where you can feed in duplicates to boost overall stats, but I was not able to get a character high enough level to be able to see this system in play, because the only character, or the 2 characters that I got high enough was the special hero champion and then a 5-star that I got lucky enough to pull. So I didn't have any duplicates of either of those, obviously. Not going to have 2 special characters, and yeah, was not going to, in the short time I was playing the beta, be able to pull two legendary champions. So I wasn't able to see, if it's something that you need several of those to feed into at once to boost the overall stats, because, I mean, the amount that it boosts, it looks like a significant amount. So we'll see how that other system deals with dupes once we get a little bit further into the game. But this system of going in, essentially unlocking items that will help help out your character builds. There's really specific items and stats attributed to each of these items. So it's an interesting system, and I really like that. I like that you can take a dupe and then get an item for it that is actively going to be helping make your team better. I think that's more impactful than some of the other dupe systems we've seen in games before, which some of them are just like, hey, just trade it back in and we'll give you some of this like super premium currency. I don't know. And you can eventually maybe do something with that after a couple of duplicates. It's just not the greatest, strongest system I've ever seen in the world. So to see them doing something interesting like this, where you're trading in duplicates for items that then go on to your champions, I like that. That's interesting. That's classy. And we'll see how that develops long term. So as far as early game dungeons go, you're not really going to have too much to have to worry about and plan for. It's kind of just run in there and smash all the stuff, right? Well, once you get to your first, essentially equipment dungeons where you can grind them for gear and everything, they start off pretty easy, but very quickly get progressively harder. And this is one of the first dungeons where it's going to be really important to set up your teams in such a way that you get through and get on the boss as quickly as possible. So for this one, we're doing Elven Treasury, and you can see that I kind of have all of my units bottom stacked so that essentially we can rush the very bottom ad, burn him down as quickly as possible, and then move in to try and take out the boss itself. The reason that we focus this mob in particular is because he has a defense break that he will apply to my team, and then the boss will hit my guy and decimate them, just absolutely crush them into the ground. So it's very important for me, once I get into these later dungeons, that I'm taking out that unit as quickly as possible, because he is the one that's making my team the most vulnerable in that fight. And then they're able to get on the boss and start pounding away at him. Now, towards the late game, it might be meta that you have to take out both of them, so you would have to kind of split your team so that you have enough damage on either side to keep these guys busy and drop them down before focusing on the boss. But honestly, the boss does so much damage at the points that I'm at, and my people are so weak and take so few hits, that if I spread them out right now and took out both of the ads and then the boss, there's a good chance my team wouldn't survive through the battle. At least when I'm doing the highest level that's available to me. I don't think it was the highest level that I recorded for footage, but when I'm, trying to push in this dungeon, or I'm trying to run it and get the absolute best chance at gear that I can, we're having to keep all that stuff in mind, and it is very, very narrow. I will be down to one champion with like 50% of their health left, with everyone else on my team dead. So you want to be careful about that, and kind of change up your strategies as you need to and as you notice that you're falling short in certain ways. And I mean, that's one of the things that I really like about this combat style in this game, is the fact that you kind of have this game board dynamic, and it kind of adds a layer of depth. So if this was like Summoner's Wars, for instance, and everybody just stood in the same line and formation and all that stuff didn't really matter, and you were just, waiting your turn to use your skills and so on and so forth, that gets a little stale after a while. And I like that they've found a way to kind of merge both that game board combat and live action combat, and it still feel like you're doing things. So all in all I can really say is that I absolutely loved this beta test. I am incredibly excited to get in and play more of this. And if any of this has piqued your interest in even the slightest little bit, check out the Discord. See if you can get into one of these beta tests that are going to be going on throughout the end of this year. And see what you think yourself, because there's enough unique elements in this that it makes it a very satisfying gacha experience for me, and I can see myself playing this one for a really long time. And I know personally, as someone who is more often than not pretty picky about the gacha games that I will entertain, there is enough unique aspects in this one that has me both excited to take part in further beta tests and give my feedback to the devs, to actually play it once it comes out, because your boy's fiending for a gacha game. I'm always fiending for a gacha game, because there's maybe two of them that I can stand to play for more than a couple of months. One of those being Summoner's War, which has more skills that you're choosing during active combat, but is the very slow turn-based. They're just sitting there, so there's no real variation to fights outside of, okay, what skills does the enemy team have that I have to worry about, and that's it. This game has that and more, so there's an aspect there that I really personally enjoy. So I can see myself playing this one for a good while once this one is live, and I'm very, very excited for that. So again, remember, go check out that Discord. See if you can apply and get into some of these future tests. I believe one is coming up on the 28th, which is just a few days from now. And yeah, no, just this one's great. And just on a quick personal level, I have talked with a lot of mobile game companies over my couple of years here on YouTube. And when I tell you that these people beat everyone else out of the water by a country mile, I mean, I have email thread responses that are 30 threads deep with these people. Not only when I told them that I had no footage to work with to make a video, and they went out of their way to provide me an offline copy of the game for me to be able to record and test. It's already going above and beyond, but the representatives that I've worked with and talked to through email have been some of the nicest and most supportive and the most helpful that I've had any business correspondence with in my adult life. And I used to do IT work where I would email people all of the time. When I say this is some of the nicest, warmest emails I've gotten from people, I mean professionally. This is one of the best companies that I've ever worked with. And I'm very impressed on that front so far. So all around, I'm very happy to be working with them on this one. I'm very happy to be putting this sponsored content on my channel. And I'm a picky person when it comes to that stuff. So that's not something that I take lightly. And again, I have a email thread that is like 30 replies deep with these people. They're amazing at getting back to me, amazing at working with me. So as far as developers go, I have a lot of belief in these guys and what they're doing. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. You're going to have to catch your boy on the next one, because we're out of here. Deuces.